Good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to the Coach's Corner. We're filming live here at the Royal Republic House here in Franklin, Massachusetts. With me, as always, the coach, Ian Bain. Coach, playoff win number one. I'm going to liken that first half to a Clint Eastwood movie, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But a win is a win.
Yeah, win and ugly. I mean, we'll take it. Fortunately, when we look back and you see the score on paper, nobody's going to know how the game really played. Obviously, we know that it wasn't our best, and it wasn't that we played terrible, but I feel like we left a lot out there.
Left a lot of points on it.
There was a lot to be desired from certain parts of our execution, and but hopefully we were able to address those, and I think we know that we were better than what we showed on Friday, and now we've got to go show that this Friday.
Yeah, so we drive down the first time. We turn the ball over, 3 and out. We get a 20-yard punt. Looks like the punt was rushed a little bit with a good rush. We then get a touchdown drive highlighted by Jace Lyons scrambling 110 yards to gain about 5 for a first down, going side to side, and then finding with a late hit foul going out of bounds, and then finding Zabriskie for about a 14-yard touchdown catch. He had 3 catches on that first couple drives. And at that point, you feel like you're off and running.
Yeah, I think sometimes getting that first score is really important. Kind of feel like I felt like even on the first drive, we were in a good rhythm. We just turned the ball over.
Right, we moved the ball up to the field. We got it up to
second.
30, and then we went back a little bit. Yeah.
We had a 4th and 1 we converted, but we turned the ball over. Second drive, we saw some things we liked. We just were a little bit off. In the third drive, I thought we started to actually put the pieces together. And Jace did a great job getting to really Derek is kind of his last resort there, finding him on the bubble. And then Derek made a great adjustment on the ball to get in the end zone.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we kick off, line drive kick right to the deep guy, and he goes pretty much untouched.
Yeah, obviously we're trying to get a certain amount of hang time to allow our coverage to get into place.
Is that one where we outkicked the coverage on that?
Yeah, basically.
So low, yeah.
Yeah, and and sometimes that happens. It's kind of the football is not a perfectly round object, so you just hit it a little bit wrong, and that can happen. Obviously, that kid's a really good athlete too, and also I think we had a lot of guys, on their first snap, their first time playing in a playoff game in high school under the lights, so our coverage was not good either. So the kick could have been better, sure, but our coverage was very, very bad.
Weymouth scores on that, obviously, and they missed the extra point, and it's 7-6. The Weymouth drives weren't great either. They went 3 and out. They stalled on the 30. But again, the return got them back in the game. Do you feel at that point that momentum's the same? Momentum is shifted back to them or to them for the first time, or are they just happy to be there? I mean, because on their second drive, they pull out a hook and ladder. So you kind of think on that thing. I know how you say sometimes we pull out trick plays when we think we see something. I think in a situation like that where you're in a tournament game and you're 16 playing 1, it's a kitchen sink game.
Yeah, I mean you got to hold it for. I think kind of the start of the question with momentum. I think any time that they're still in the game, when you're a 16 seed and we've been there. If you even feel like you're getting a first down, it's going to generate a lot of momentum. It's going to generate confidence. If the game's close, if you have pick up a couple first downs, even if you punt, you're feeling like you're in it. So with those games, and that danger is you've got to assert your dominance early. And we really didn't do a great job of that. And then as they drove, we tightened up some things and played better. But, the longer you let a team like that hang in there, when you're and I think they're a good team. I don't mean to say like they're not, but I'm talking about being a lower seed versus the high seed. The longer the lower seed's in there, the more confidence they get, the more momentum they get, because they're still in the game and they're not supposed to be based on the paper.
Right, and then as the deeper in the game goes on, I mean, you see it in the NCAA basketball tournament all the time. As the deeper in the game goes on, then all of a sudden that team feels like they can win, and you're now playing for your life.
And now you're a hook and ladder away from it costing you the ball game.
We get the ball back. We go downfield. We hit Grayson down the middle for a nice catch. A couple of Zabriskie more catches. A couple of nice Davidi runs. Drive stalls, and we miss a field goal.
Yeah.
We'll get back to the special teams in a little bit because they then botch a punt. They go 3 and out, botch a punt. I couldn't tell by the tape, but I think at the game I saw it was just a low snap, and we just got to them at that point.
They had seemed to be been bothered by pressure, and our kick rush, our punt rush unit is pretty solid. I mean, they've done a good job getting after opposing punters this year. We've had a couple blocked kicks, a couple pressured into bad kicks in certain moments. So we knew if we could get them to do that would be in our favor. As far as the stalled out drive prior to the punt, we just needed to call a better game in the red area. I thought we had something, but we didn't work it enough, to kind of do that. So obviously we needed to probably call some different things and do some things better.
So the botched punt though turns into a Franklin touchdown. We go to Davidi. Davidi rushes it right in. Again though, we missed the point after. They then get the ball back, and I thought, which was probably the turning point of the half, is Lackey just gets right in on the first play and just blows up the kid.
Yeah.
And Flom is just there at the right place, right time, scoop and score for a touchdown. One, it's just a great hit by Lackey. Two, it's nice to see Ethan Flom get a touchdown. Kid who's there every day and works.
He's been there 4 years. He's been a hard worker. He's been a kid who has kind of played a lot of different positions for us over the years, and he's found a nice role on the team, and he's done a good job with it. So, it's good to see that work pay off.
Again, though, point after is blocked. So the half comes to an end, and we have a lead at the half. It's an ugly lead. Like you said, if you're not at the game, you see the score, you're like, all right, well, okay. But if you're at the game, you're saying special teams were just all over the map, and I think we'll touch on the kicking later. But I mean, we had some good plays on kicks, some bad plays on kicks, bad kick coverage. How do you adjust with what's going on there?
It's not really an adjustment to make. I mean, when you play poorly, you have to correct the behavior. I mean, we were not. I mean, it's easy to say make an adjustment, but the adjustment for us is do what you're supposed to do, and I think that's a big part of it. Just got to execute. We're not going to change the punt scheme or the lanes or anything like that, but how about we start by getting in the lanes? We start by squeezing to the football once we get within 20 yards and definitely within 15 yards. We can't outrun the returner. I mean, we have guys on film that are running down the field and they go beyond the returner. That's the worst place to be because you can't do anything.
You're not getting back in the play.
So just little things like that. And I think a lot of it was nerves and being hyped up because it was playoffs and it was Friday night. But that's not an excuse now. We're better than that. I think that's what's frustrating about that half is knowing how good this team is and how I think we take a lot of pride, and I think Franklin football usually shows very well our preparedness and our execution and our attention to detail, and that really was not shown in the first half.
So when you go into the half, I mean, we had turnovers, we had a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of drop passes, but we had drop passes. The kicking game was all over the map. How do you address the team in that? How do you keep them from saying we might be snake bitten today?
Yeah, I think you got to ground them and just why are we failing? And we are not playing fundamental football, and that's not what the kids that have built this program had done. That's not what Tommy Gasparo built when he laid the foundation of this thing. It's not what Nick Gordon did or Driscoll did or McClaney or Riley Downing, any of those guys. And I told them point blank, I was like, all these alumni that came here to watch you tonight and are on our sideline don't even know what they're watching because it was terrible and it was very bad football. And it'd be one thing if it was something that I thought we coach or don't coach or pay attention to, but I mean, I don't think there's many teams that work as hard in the kick game as we do. I don't think there's many teams that prepare as hard as we do. I mean, a lot of teams do, but nobody's doing it more or better. We're, I think, at the top of that. But when you put that on your film, then obviously that's reflective on what are we doing in practice, guys. So it's really getting our focus to can you just do what you're coached to do? And coaches do a better job of instructing the players to do it better.
I want to touch on one other thing in the first half. It was evident that you felt there was something down the middle.
Yep.
As I think you went to Grayson 4, 5, 6 times. Was that something you see on film as a team coverage, or is that an individual kid you think you can pick on? I don't want to. Not calling any kids.
It's really
out.
not a big deal. So, actually, the issue was the films that we got from various sources. Their safeties actually, they weren't all great films, because obviously not every school has a great press box, and some of the games, guys are filming from the ground, from the bleachers. So we weren't entirely sure how the safeties were going to play. So we wanted to test that out, and we had some answers built in if they played it tight, they played it wide, where are they strong, where are they weak. And it just happened that obviously I think a lot of it was, when you have 6 on the outside, one side, he's going to draw attention, and that kind of loosens up the middle. And then if you squeeze the middle, then that opens it up for 6. So, I don't think, Luke played a fine game, but obviously he might not have had his normal amount of targets just based on.
You think that's them?
Yeah, they definitely. They shaded that safety to him. It wasn't a true double, but they definitely shaded there, and that opened up the middle.
Okay, so the half ends. We come out in the second half. DeVita gets a touchdown. Jace finds Davis. He gets us a touchdown, and Cortese kicks a field goal to get himself squared away. The one big thing I thought is the defense outscored their offense 6-0. Good game plan by the defense. They did a couple here and there bad plays, but for the most part they were just pretty solid the whole game.
And they had a couple chunk plays, but I don't think their big gains were really because we were out of position. They called some good plays, and they did some very creative things. I thought that was a very well coached team on both sides of the ball, and they hadn't given up a lot of points on defense all year. And I thought we moved the ball pretty well. And offensively, they're really very young, but I thought they did a really good job scheming up to get a few of their playmakers the ball and get them in space.
Yeah, they had a couple nice outside swing passes, screen passes. Let's go back to Garrett. And I'm a big fan of Garrett's. So he has as rough as the first half as I think a kicker can have. At what point are you saying to yourself, it's definitely now it's in his mind? Is that equal to like a golfer who starts missing putts? Now you're overthinking things. I know there was a couple that they got in on.
Yeah.
But then there were a couple that were just all over the map. And then I'm glad he straightened himself out in the second half. His mother is definitely glad.
I think the number one thing is when guys struggle and they kind of, mistakes happen, right? We've had the best of our players. What comes to mind is Jack Nally, who I couldn't say more good things about. There was a game where I think he dropped 2 or 3 punts in the game.
I remember that.
And
it was
Attleboro. Yeah, and they're like, oh, do you want to get Jack? I was like, no, I don't want to, because I don't want the kids to think for 1 second that we don't believe in them.
Sure.
And you know what? Those things happen. I've been there. You've been there. Anybody that's played significant time is gonna have those moments. And I think true competitors want to get back out there and do it again. And I think Garrett's like that. So even though he obviously, wasn't really himself in the first half for whatever reason, I knew that he would compete and battle back and rise to the challenge. And Coach Donovan does a great job challenging him. And I don't really like to talk to kickers that much. Garrett likes to mess with me a little bit too. So
yeah, him and Parker are different breeds of animals.
Yeah, but you know what? I think the important thing was to try to reinforce to him that we believed in what he was doing. I think he came out. He put one in the end zone on the kickoff. So I think we got a touchback, or it was right back there. He obviously had the PAT. We didn't punt again. Or we had the field goal rather. The PATs were good. Right. So he got right back to being himself, and I think that's the important thing, is to give kids an opportunity to redo that. I always say, if you're making the mistakes, but you've done all the right things up to this point, I'm going to be very patient. If you're a kid that's not doing the right things, not being a part of the summer program, not focused to practice, doesn't work hard, then I'm going to have a very short leash with you. So I think, our players like Garrett and Nally mentioned a minute ago, those kids have earned the right to redeem themselves. And that's an important lesson too for kids to understand, where we don't always give that slack to a player, but why? Why don't we? And it's, you got to earn that trust from your coaching staff.
All right, so we have Methuan coming in on Friday, a rematch from last year. They won on the last second play at home to beat Brockton. What do they bring to the table?
Their quarterback's back. His younger brother's their running back. Really good players all the way around. Offensively, very creative. They do a lot of things to create conflict and chaos. I liken them to a wing T team where not where things are set up to create deception and make you play discipline. And the minute you take your eyes away from what you're supposed to, the minute you lack discipline is the minute the ball goes past you and into the end zone. Defensively, aggressive, athletic. They're going to challenge us all over the field. Last year they came in not intimidated at all, and I have no doubt they'll do the same thing. Their coach does a great job having them confident and prepared. We just really need to be on our game and give our best effort, and it should be a heck of a game.
We got a little weather coming in. They're going to move the game to 4 o'clock. Is that going to be an issue, you think?
No, I think the biggest thing is obviously we're hosting Super Bowls. We have 2 teams in the Super Bowl on Sunday, so we really can't move the game to Sunday. Saturday's probably going to be the worst of the days.
Right.
So we just really want to make sure we get this game in, give the kids an opportunity to play this game. Obviously, if this was just a rainstorm, we wouldn't have moved it, but it's a little more than that with the hurricane and not really knowing, God forbid, we start the game and it's a lot worse than we anticipated. We don't want to do anything to create an unsafe environment, so it may rain a little bit, but I don't think we're going to get the heavy part of the storm.
Was there any thought to moving it to tomorrow?
I think we'd done that originally.
But soccer's at home.
And plus now we're hosting a doubleheader, so obviously we don't want to,
disrupt everything.
Yeah, and where would we go to play? So I think everything happens for a reason. And if actually last year, if we recall, this game was supposed to get rain,
and it got
nothing.
Right.
So it'll have a way to work itself out, and all we can really do is control what we can control and be prepared to handle any situation. Our kids love wet ball days at practice. We practice in the rain. We never go inside. So I think we'll be ready. Whatever the situation is, it's out of our control. We just got to focus on execution and doing the best of the fundamentals.
So you mentioned, Coach, that we're having the AYF is hosting the Super Bowl. We have 2 Franklin teams in it. We have a 4th grade team in it. They're playing Attleboro at 9 a.m. We have a 7th grade team in it. They're playing North Attleboro. They're both playing North Attleboro 9 a.m. and 1:30. The last time Franklin ever had somebody in the Super Bowl was 2018. You might remember some of those kids. Aroni was the quarterback. Will was the running back. Kindred was a player on that team. And right down the line. We will be there all day Sunday. We will be at Franklin 4 o'clock. Now, don't show up at 6 and miss the game. Friday night at Pisani Field, I've been told. For the coach, Ian Bain, all the good people here at the Raillery. We'll see you Friday night. We'll see you here at the Coach's Corner.